at 6 of the ratios. And the first 3 we looked at last week. So we are going to recap them from there, and then we add the other 2. So we are saying that when you have a right angle, right? When you have an angle like this, and let's say we label them as A, B, C, and the parts are A. So this place is A, B, and then C, right? And we are saying that A, we know A to be, because of this side to be the theta, the part that is opposite the theta becomes the opposite. So in this case, A is the opposite. The part that is adjacent to the theta is adjacent, and B is close to the theta, so it's adjacent, and the longest part becomes the hypotenuse. So C, we know C is the hypotenuse. Okay, let's write them. So we have A to be equal to the opposite, right? B to be equal to adjacent, and we know C to be equal to the hypotenuse. All right, so with this, we are going to look at the ratios. And the ratio, as we said, we have sine theta. Sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. And we also looked at cos theta is equal to adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And the last one is what tan theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. And we also made mention that if you do forget any of these, then you have to remember what we call our tip. So with the tip, we said you can always remember something like this. So the tip, we so ka toa, okay? So ka toa. And with the so ka toa, it simply means that so S is the sine theta, right? And O is the opposite. So this one is this one. O is the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So O is the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. And the C here is the cos theta. Cos theta is equal to adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And the last one, which is tan. And tan is equal to toa, which is T is the tan and OA is opposite divided by adjacent. Please, is that okay? Yes. So basically, this is what we looked at. That's the first 3 ratios. We are going to look at the second 3 ratios of these. So this is number 1, number 2, and number 3. So now let's look at number 4, number 5, and then number 6. So number 4 is Cosec theta, okay? And Cosec is just that the inverse of sine theta. The inverse of sine theta. Is that okay? What I mean by the inverse is, you know, we have, okay, let me write the equation, the ratio first. With the cosec, it's going to be 1 divided by sine theta. 1 divided by sine theta, right? And if 1 divided by sine theta, we know sine theta already to be opposite divided by hypotenuse. So if you want to write this one in the form of the name of the angle, so we are going to write 1, this should be equal to 1 divided by sine theta. Sine theta is opposite divided by hypotenuse. And with this, we can also write this one as what? let's write, or after that, the rest, we will not write it this way. So we are going to have 1 divided by opposite divided by hypotenuse. With this, we can write it in multiplication form, whereby we swap the right-hand side. So we are going to have 1 multiplied by hypotenuse divided by opposite. And at the end, when you multiply 1 by hypotenuse, you still get your hypotenuse. So you're going to have hypotenuse divided by opposite, right? So instead of writing 1 divided by sine theta, right, we can just write cosec is equal to hypotenuse divided by opposite. Please, is that okay? So let's just clean all these and write just the number. So we are going to have this to be equal to hypotenuse divided by opposite. So we have hypotenuse divided by opposite. And you know how to prove this, right? Now, we are going to solve examples under all of these. But before that, let's try to go through all the ratios first. The fifth ratio that you want to talk about is sec theta. Sec theta. And sec theta is basically 1 divided by cos theta. And it's going to be the same thing. 1 divided by cos theta. And we know cos theta is the same as adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So after we go through all these, we are going to get our answer as what? Adjacent divided by opposite. If you've forgotten cos theta, you can refer to SOHCAHTOA, the tip. And the car is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So the other way around will be what? Hypotenuse divided by adjacent. Please, is that okay? And the last one that you want to look at is cot theta. So cot theta is going to be 1 divided by tan theta. And tan theta is the same as opposite divided by adjacent. So in the other way around, we are going to have adjacent divided by opposite. Right. So these are the basic ratios that we are going to go with. Sine theta, cos theta, tan theta, cosec theta, sec theta, and cot theta. And we are saying that these are the formulas. So if you look around, you are going to realize that the first three is just the direct opposite of the second three. The first one, we have sine theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So it is the opposite of cosec theta, which is hypotenuse over what? Opposite. It just swap. So if you can remember it this way, I believe you'll be able to solve any question. Cos theta is the opposite of sec theta. And we're going to have adjacent divided by hypotenuse on cos theta. Sec theta will give us hypotenuse divided by adjacent. And the last one, tan theta, of course, is what? Cot theta. Now let's pick one example, try to solve them. Is that okay? So let's say we have our example or diagram given to us like this. And we have this place to be A, B, and then C. And we are asked to, okay, this side will be what? The theta. This side will be 6, and this side will be 8. And we are asked to find these 6 ratios. Find the 6 ratios. But before you find the 6 ratio, please make sure you have all the sides solved for, all the length of the angle solved for. So you realize that we have the opposite, which is 8. We have the adjacent, which is 6, but we don't have the hypotenuse. Right? That is where we employ the skill we learned from Pythagoras Theorem. And with the skill from Pythagoras Theorem, it says that the sum of the other side should be equal to the longer side. The sum of the other two sides should be equal to the square of the longer side. So let's try to write the formula down. We are going to have AC square of AC plus square of BA should be equal to the square of BC, right? Now, we know our AC, we know our BA. So let's write them. So AC is equal to 6 squared plus BA is 8 squared. But we don't know what? BC. And our BC is the hypotenuse. So let's solve for that. This will give us 36 plus 64 should be equal to BC squared. So our BC squared should be equal to 36 plus 64 give us 100. So the square root of 100, the length of BC is equal to square of 100 because we take square of both sides, square root of both sides. So the BC should be equal to 10. Now we know our hypothesis is what? 10. So let's go straight ahead and solve the questions right from the beginning to the end. So our tan theta, sine theta, number 1, sine theta is equal to, if you've forgotten the formula, quickly just write a tip somewhere. So let's write our tip here. Our tip says so ka toa. Okay, and we know this one is the sine theta. So sine theta will give us O divided by H, and we know O is opposite divided by H, which is hypotenuse. So our opposite and hypotenuse, what is the opposite here? The opposite is 8 divided by hypotenuse, which is 10. Please, let's try to simplify it to the simplest form. So we have 4 divided by 5. Now, let's look at the second ratio. Number 2, cos theta. Go to the tip. Cos theta is what? AH. So A is adjacent divided by hypotenuse, right? And we are going to have our adjacent is what? 6 divided by hypotenuse, which is 10. In the simplest form, we are going to get 3 divided by 5. And the last one on the left side, that is tan theta, should be equal to, we are going to prove or check that if it is the direct opposite of this one, the first 3. Okay, so the toa we know is O and A. So O divided by A. O is opposite divided by adjacent, right? So at the end, we are going to get our opposite is what? 8 divided by adjacent, which is 6. And at the end, we have 4 divided by 3, right? So that is the end of the first 3. Now let's look at the opposite side, if you're going to get the same answer or not. So the first one that we are going to talk about is cosec theta. So number 4, cosec theta. And we said is what? The opposite, direct opposite of this. So we are going to get hypotenuse divided by opposite, right? And the hypotenuse from the diagram is 10 divided by opposite, which is, opposite is what? 8. And we are going to get 5 divided by 4. When we finish, we do the comparison. Number 5, we have sec theta. Is the formula is what? Hypotenuse divided by adjacent. And this will give us, hypotenuse is what? 10 divided by adjacent, which is 6. So when we break it down, we get 5 divided by 3. And the last one, number 6, cot theta, should be equal to adjacent divided by opposite. So this one will give us, the adjacent is 6 divided by the opposite, which is 8. So our answer should be what? 3 divided by 4. Now let's compare and see. Basically, if the question is given to you, out of these 6 ratios, one of them will be asked, or 2 or a couple of them will be asked. But if you are asked to solve for all the 6 ratios, this is how you're going to do it. But I'm not sure you're going to have a question that will ask you to solve all the 6 ratios. but it's good you know all of them so that whichever one that is asked, you should be able. So all that you need to know is how to solve Pythagoras theorem so that you can find any missing links in the diagram. After that, you should be able to remember all these formulas. And I told you, if you've forgotten the first three, just remember the SOHCAHTOA at the tip. And if you're able to solve the first three, the first one is the opposite of the fourth one. The second one is the opposite of the fifth one, and the third one is the opposite of the sixth one. And you should be able to solve every question that you are asked to solve.